Hello, my name is Edward Sonnino, and thank you very much for visiting my campaign website. The only reason that I'm running for mayor of New York City is because I think I'm the only candidate with a truly transformative platform to solve all New York City's problems in a sustainable and rapid manner. Now, my priority is education, but details are everything. A city with its citizens well-educated and well-adjusted will not have problems of poverty, violence, crime, addiction, abuse. And the only way to get citizens well-educated is to have a truly excellent public school system, which means having every single public school in New York City run as well as the best private schools in the country. Now, the formula for the most successful schools is strict class discipline, lots of homework and study hall, and an enlightened curriculum. So I don't have to explain what strict discipline in the class means. I don't have to explain homework and study hall. You can't learn anything unless you do lots of homework. That's one of the essentials of a good education. But the curriculum, I do want to spend some time on, because it's not enough to teach math and science. Every single student in New York City's public schools needs to also get a lot of culture. So, for example, every student in the New York City public school system needs to study economics and finance. They have to know this. I'm talking about classes in high school, so high school courses. So in addition to English and mathematics, etc., we need to teach economics and finance, because every single New Yorker needs to know how the economy works and how to invest their own money as an adult. They also need to understand economics so that they can understand which candidates for president, for example, or senator, representative, which candidates understand economics too, because you can't be ignorant about economics and then know which candidates know what they're talking about. So, besides economics and finance, and I want to give you an example. I volunteered about 10 or 15 years ago to teach in various failing New York City public high schools. And I volunteered to teach economics and investing. And I could not believe that out of my 150 students, more or less, not one knew how to work with fractions and percentages. They had learned absolutely nothing in all their years in New York City public schools. So it is essential to teach the basics, of course, in mathematics. But you must teach courses in economics and finance. We must have a 4-year course also in psychology, accompanied by workshops in group therapy and good parenting to complement the theory of psychology. And we also need a course in human rights, in the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the history of human rights violations. So 4 years of that in every high school, every New York City public high school, because every youth must understand what human rights are, specifically what they are. The ones listed in the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights are the ones that the United States has signed on to, as has every other member of the United Nations. And yet, we have not done one of the important requirements of that document of the United Nations, which is to teach the Universal Declaration of Human Rights to every citizen. Not one nation has done that. It's about time that we gave the example and started doing it ourselves, particularly when we have a history of human rights violations, serious ones, and we still have lingering problems of racism and other violations of human rights, such as even women's equal rights. We've made a lot of progress on that, but there's still a lot to do. We still have discrimination on the basis of sexuality. We have discrimination on the basis of even religion. So the only way to really solve that is through a 4-year course which makes every youth understand, know and understand the UN Declaration of Human Rights and the history of human rights violations in the world, going back to prehistorical times, or no, not prehistorical times, but to antiquity, the times of antiquity before Jesus Christ, 1,000 years before Jesus Christ. We've already had documented examples of human rights violations based on religious discrimination and other discriminations like censorship and even torture. And so it would be a very instructive course, and the only way to really purge ideas of discrimination from every youth. Then we also need to have a course on 20th century history in great detail. Every graduate of a New York City public school needs to know the causes of World War I, the causes of World War II, the causes of the Great Depression, the causes of communism and fascism and why they failed. We need to have well-rounded citizens in culture. They need to we need to have courses in foreign languages and literature, culture, foreign culture. We need 4 years in the history of art, architecture, and design. We need a course in the history of music. We need a course in ethics and empathy. We need a course in logic and critical thinking, which is essential so that our citizens will not fall for disinformation, for con men, for all sorts of absurd conspiracy theories, such as the one that Hillary Clinton and other elites supposedly kidnap children and drink their blood in the basement of a Washington, D.C. pizzeria. I mean, you really have people who believe in that. One of these QAnon conspiracies. I mean, no person who has been well educated and has had a course in critical thinking and logic would ever fall for such a thing. And it's a danger to the nation not to have citizens who are well educated, etc. And as we know, poverty, it has a direct relationship with a low level of education. So if we want to eliminate poverty in New York, we must absolutely ensure that every single public school in New York City is an elite school. We need to give every single child in New York, every single youth in New York, an elite education. So that means not only the discipline, the homework, the study hall, the enlightened curriculum. It also means having individual tutors and mentors for every single child having academic or psychological difficulties, so to prevent them from falling behind. That's the only way to do it. Some kids need individual attention, and we must give it to them. If we have elite schools run this way, we will not have any more dropouts. All the kids will be going to college, even if they want to become truck drivers or plumbers or electricians, it doesn't matter. You don't go to college and get a liberal education just because you want to go on to being to studying law or medicine or architecture or whatever. Your life is much more meaningful if you have a liberal arts education. So why wait until college? It should start in high school. So New York City public schools will be as good, if not better, as the best private schools, and we will not have any more dropouts. Everybody will be well educated, and that solves the problem of poverty, crime, violence, addiction in New York, and it also leads to much lower taxes eventually, because when everybody is well educated, you have no more poverty, you don't have crime, and you don't have violent crime at least. And if everybody is well educated also in ethics and in psychology, you won't have criminals, because criminals are all mentally disturbed. There's no such thing as a person who's a criminal, even a white-collar criminal, who's not mentally disturbed. I also volunteered teaching economics and investing in a New York State prison on Staten Island. And every single one of them, of the inmates, was a high school dropout and grew up in a tough neighborhood and would never have ended up in prison and never committed crimes if they had benefited from a great public school education. Often, kids don't have parents who don't have time to do good parenting because they're working double shifts or for whatever reason. Kids need direction, they need discipline, and they need to see that they're learning so that they will have a successful life when as adults. So they need a rational hope and belief that they will be successful in life. When you have that, you don't have dropouts and you don't have criminals. So the priority, my absolute priority, there are other things, of course, in my platform, which I hope you will read on my website, to make life in New York much more pleasant, to make it more beautiful, more enjoyable, including putting in many beautiful landscape Olympic-sized swimming pools in the parks, transforming the Central Park Reservoir into a swimming oasis with different swimming establishments. There's no reason why New York shouldn't have lots of swimming pools for its residents in every single borough. Beautifully landscaped, very well run, some for families with children, and others just for adults. And the schools, the public schools, must also have very well organized extracurricular activities in the sports and the arts, and even in vocational training on weekends, during holidays, and during the entire summer break, so that our youth, our students, have constructive activities that they will want to do. It's voluntary, but they will certainly gravitate towards them on weekends and the holidays and this entire summer break. We want to keep them off the street and constructively employed in activities which will bring them enjoyment and skills. And we wanted to also promote lots of intra-city competitions between the high schools in all fields, intellectual fields, sports, the arts, annual competitions. And then we also want to guarantee scholarships to all New York City universities for all the graduates of our public schools. So there will be no problem of not having enough money for that. The scholarship for every graduate from our public schools in our New York City colleges. Another thing, I mean, I can't stand to see those TV advertisements of abandoned animals, mistreated animals, which are saved in part by the ASPCA or other organizations. The way a society treats their animals shows whether it's a civilized society, a humane society or not. So we want to encourage all our children to love and treat animals well. And we will develop a program for weekends and the summer breaks and the holiday breaks, where we have an adoption and companionship program between the animal shelters and our public high school students, our public school students. So any student interested in becoming a companion or adopting, we will have this program so that as many as possible of these abandoned dogs and cats will be either adopted or have wonderful companionship. This will bring happiness, of course, to these abandoned animals, but also to our public school students. It's essential. So these are some of the programs that I will emphasize. Another one is beautifying the city of New York. So we will have a New York City Beautification Corps, which will be open to all comers, adults, and of course on their vacations, even high school students. And this will be to upgrade our sidewalks, our subway stations, upgrade all our waterfronts, riverfronts. We want to make them all as beautiful as the one we currently have on the west side along the Hudson, from let's say 23rd Street down to the Financial Center. It's beautifully done. We want the entire riverfronts of every borough or seafront to be beautifully landscaped. We want the sidewalks beautifully paved and planted. So there's going to be jobs available for all the unemployed, paying the minimum wage, and for students who are on vacation, they want to participate in beautifying New York City. They will have a way to do that, and we will benefit greatly. And since one of New York's greatest economic activities is tourism, beautifying New York and eliminating crime and violence is going to greatly increase tourism. So that increases jobs tremendously. So this is I have a holistic plan focusing on education, public school education, turning all our New York City public schools into elite schools, so that every single New York City youth gets an elite education, no matter in which borough they live. Every single one will become an elite school from day one. And so that combined with the beautifying New York, having these beautiful public swimming pools, outdoor swimming pools in all the borough parks, we will make an enormous difference for New York City. So details are everything, the other candidates, or every single mayor we've had up till now, never had a detailed plan, just vague ideas. Yes, and we want education, we want this, we want that, but never explaining what makes a good education and how to get one, how to provide one. So I hope you'll take a look at my my campaign flyer, which is you'll see on the site. Also other videos where I'll do some reading, because obviously when a detailed reading of the platform will be much more complete and efficient than me just talking off the cuff. And I hope you will be persuaded that my platform is by far the best, and that you will want to spread the word and vote for me. And I am an independent write-in candidate. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. I'm an independent candidate and a write-in candidate. So you will have to write in my name on the ballot. So this, I hope you'll be very enthusiastic about my platform and my candidacy. And I will be updating the campaign through videos and through postings on Twitter, on Facebook, and so for the moment, thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you'll take the time to look at the rest of my website, to look at my flyer. If you think it's great, please print it out. It's a 2-page flyer. I mean, it's a 1-page flyer on both sides, and hand it out to your friends and acquaintances and colleagues. Spread the word. And so thank you very much, and I hope you'll be following me in the months ahead, leading up to the November 2021 mayoral election of New York City. Thanks again.